Welcome back to the Cantaloupe Cats Movie Podcast. I'm John Wlaysewski. I'm here with Tom Milligan and another special guest, Olive Hui.
Hello.
Hey, welcome back to the Cantaloupe Cats Movie Podcast. I'm John Wlaysewski, your co-host with Tom Milligan. Today we're going to dive into Heretic, a 2024 psychological horror film. Written and directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods. It stars Hugh Grant, Sophie Thatcher, and Chloe East. It follows two Mormon missionaries who attempt to convert a reclusive Englishman, only to realize he's more dangerous than he seems. We have a special guest today on the podcast, Olive Hui, also known as Pineapple O. They are an actor, musician, artist. Among other things, I'm in a band with Olive called Late Cambrian. Let's dive into Heretic and see if you believe. Welcome back to the Cantaloupe Cats Movie Podcast. I'm John Wlaysewski. I'm here with Tom Milligan and another special guest, Olive Hui, a.k.a. Pineapple O. They are a human that lives on Earth. They are an actor, musician, and artist. Welcome to the program, Olive.
Hello.
We thought that Olive would be a good guest for today because they can offer special insight into this movie. The movie is Heretic, by Scott Beck and Brian Woods. It stars Hugh Grant, Sophie Thatcher, and Chloe East. Basically a chamber piece that takes place in Hugh Grant or Mr. Reed's house. Last time I talked to Tom about this, I said I saw it 1.5 times because Olive showed up really late to the movie and missed the first half, so I watched the whole thing, and then we went again right after and stayed until the point that Olive had seen. So here we are. And then I saw it again, so we've... together, totally, Olive and I have seen the movie
all of us.
like 4.5 times.
I feel like Tom can just watch it once and then know everything, right? Do you tend to rewatch movies?
Sometimes, yeah. But I don't always get the chance to do so. So I have to take a lot of notes so I don't forget.
I brought my notes.
There you go. Oh yeah,
it's on a napkin and on a
nice.
bag.
Yeah, Olive notes are on Regal Essex movie napkins.
Should we start with the plot? Should we give our initial reactions first? How do you want to do it?
Well, I love this. I love Heretic so much that I'm like, I want to be a part of this when you guys talk about it.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, based on what John was telling me, I'm really excited to hear what you have to say about it. John, why are you purple? That's great.
His hands.
Oh, I was covering up the camera with a piece of purple tape. I've just moved the tape.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what that was.
You're like, what happened? Did you take the substance and it all didn't work out?
Yeah, John, what did you think of the movie?
I loved it. There are some people who might say that the movie is kind of preaching to the choir, but I kind of don't think so. We will get into that. I think it was great. I really like the mood of the piece the whole time. It's very enveloping and claustrophobic. Mm-hmm. And also, when I was in high school, I had this idea for a movie in my head I had this idea of Jehovah's Witnesses come to the door of this house and the person lets them in and then he knocks them out and flatlines them so they can see the other side and then brings them back. And when they realize there's nothing, they join his cult. So this was an idea I had when I was in high school. So then watching this movie, I was like, oh my God, someone's been reading my journal. It's very, not that it's even that similar, but that whole idea of showing people something, showing people who have a very deep belief something and maybe changing their beliefs was always in my head since I was a kid. So this movie really appealed to me on that level.
Yes.
Very cool.
You can still make that movie in your head too.
Yeah, you can still make it. It's not too late.
It was like, yeah, and I also had another idea for a movie where it turns out that homeless people in New York City were clocking in at the beginning of every day because they work for the government to kind of like push people to feel afraid to not have a job, so they continue to keep the economy going. I had like a really weird brain when I was in high school. So this was one of those two things that always came to mind. I guess we should start at the top of the movie. The very first thing we see is from the back, we see Sister Paxton, played by Chloe East, and Sister Barnes, played by Sophie Thatcher. And it's like pulling back on them, showing the back of their head, while Chloe East is talking about Magnum condoms and how she had heard that they're bigger than regular condoms, but she thinks it's a myth. And how it's amazing how people believe what they've been handed through marketing, which is kind of the theme of the movie in a way. So they talk a little bit about that. And then Sister Paxton, Chloe East's character, the more naive one, talks about some pornography that she was watching.
I love it. She called pornography.
Keeps calling it pornography, which is really funny. And she also says that the people on screen were sexing, which is hilarious. But she says that they were having sex on screen, and then off camera in another room, someone bangs on the wall and says, "Hey, we can hear you in here." And this is the way that the movie establishes this character, because what she takes from that, watching this this porn, which is obviously kind of like an exhibitionist fetish where people get off on the idea that someone's listening to them have sex. She took it as, and this poor woman who was having sex, just you could see her soul drain from her eyes and how sad she was. And she was like, "Wow, I'm sexing for money." When the whole point of the porn was the knocking on the wall and yelling, "Hey, I can hear you." So at the same time she's watching porn, she's also very naive about it, which I thought was an interesting way to establish her character.
And then Sophie Thatcher's character, Sister Barnes, said, "Do you watch a lot of those things?"
No, not at all. No, I never. No, I don't watch a lot of pornography. No. Sophie Thatcher's character, Sister Barnes, is established later as the less naive one, who was kind of a recent convert to the Church of Latter-day Saints. She's from Philadelphia. Whereas Chloe East's character, Sister Paxton, was born into the church and is one of 8 sisters, or one of 8 children.
And originally from Utah.
Yes. So we pull out on that. That when I first saw the movie, I was like, this is an interesting way to start this movie. Like, what an interesting conversation to kind of like establish the characters and who they are. Like, naive but interested, and like religious, but also like secretly kind of watching pornography. Thought that was pretty good. Then it cuts to them walking up some stairs with their bikes, and Olive had pointed out that looks very Miyazaki to them.
Yeah, because the cinematographer is probably influenced.
I can definitely see that. That was one thing I wanted to shout out was the cinematographer is Chung Chung Hoon, who has collaborated notably several times with Park Chan-wook on films such as Old Boy, Thirst, Stoker, and The Handmaiden. So really impressive.
What a great cinematographer then.
Yeah.
All those films look beautiful.
Absolutely. This one's no exception.
Far away, like the shots are so beautiful. You see like mountains, right? We see mountains.
Yeah, this is in Boulder, Colorado, I believe. Yeah.
I'm seeing he also worked on Wonka.
Yeah, he's gone on to do sort of bigger Hollywood movies after
Last Night in Soho from Edgar Wright. Yeah, what an interesting jump to Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
And then this movie. All very rich, like the whole like the feel of the cinematography is very, very impressive. So that scene, yeah, very well composed scene. There are these like little sets of stairs that are like offset, so you go up like 10 steps, you have to walk to the right, go up 10 steps, you got to walk to the left,
So this podcast, we can have heavy spoilers, right? It's always heavy spoilers.
Oh, yes.
Heavy spoilers.
So we can talk about everything.
Absolutely, yes.
And I'll edit this. It'll come out like maybe next Monday or something, but it will have already been out for 2 weeks. So yeah, and then the full spoiler plot synopsis is on Wikipedia already anyway. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that on IMDb. It's just 2 young religious women are drawn into a game of cat and mouse in the house of a strange man. Very simple.
It is very simple, yeah.
Well, that's them going. They're on their way to spread the good word of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They're talking a little bit about Sister Barnes, Sophie Thatcher, says that she's converted 9 people, and Chloe East's Sister Paxton's like, oh, balls, wow, that's wow, because she hasn't really converted anyone yet, but she's, clearly the more earnest and excited to convert people. So then they walk down those same stairs with their bikes, and that really stood out to me because Sister Paxton, Chloe East, she's wheeling the bike down the side of the stairs, so it's easy for her to take it down. Like she saw like a solution to the problem of getting the bikes down the stairs. Whereas Sister Barnes, Sophie Thatcher, carries the whole bike down, and it's very heavy, and you see her going down the middle of the stairs. So that could, that's a pretty simple cinematic way to show what their personalities are good at,
Good observation.
That is a good observation, yeah. And it's around this time that they have an encounter with a group of like teenagers who ask to take a photo with them, and they kind of run up to take the selfie, and one of them asks Sister Paxton, right?
Is it true?
Yes, is it true? To which she says, is what true? And then she says about the magic underwear, and then she like pulls down Sister Paxton's like dress. And it's
While
really
they're being filmed, yeah.
While they're being filmed, yeah, because they get it on camera. So, yeah, it's a very humiliating moment. And they walk off, and she's crying from this happening. So,
it's a good way to show what they go through as Mormon missionaries, that they're not really accepted by other people. And she had just said by seeing the girls, oh, I love these girls already. Seeing them having fun in the street.
Yeah.
It casts it casts them as outcasts.
Yeah, like an
in
outsider.
regular society.
And then it reminded her that the Book of Mormon musical was making fun of the Mormon religion.
To which Sister Barnes says, "Oh, I enjoyed it. Like I thought it was good.
Really good character
I find
work."
it kind of funny, yeah.
Yeah,
because Sister Paxton, she's like, that South Park musical really made fun of us, and then Sister Barnes is like, well, if you listen to it, actually the songs are pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. So again, just gleaming a lot from these two characters, and how Sister Paxton, in particular, I think is very trusting and sees the best in people or potential in everyone.
Mm-hmm. Sister Barnes is more guarded. She's had like a recent convert. She's from Philadelphia, so she's got like a little bit of a flinty hard edge compared to the other one. And this is around the point when they make their way to Mr. Reed's house. Mr. Reed, played by Hugh Grant. And they lock the bikes up out front, and they're looking at their phone, and the phone shows that they've visited like 4 or 5 people before him, and he's the last one, right?
He's the last one of the day. And his house is not completely isolated, but it's a little nestled off the beaten path and kind of tucked under these trees. I think he says he's like on the edge of a hill, even though you don't quite see it from the camera. But yeah, just to give you an idea of where his house is.
Yeah, I forgot. Like at the opening, when they're pulling back on them talking about Magnum condoms, you see a giant mountain in the background, like just to kind of establish where they live. I think it's Boulder, Colorado. You said,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
So it kind of gives you that sense that it's a very hilly area. They're going up these big stairs to get up the hill. They have to come down the stairs. So we definitely get a sense of the type of topography we're dealing with.
For sure. And so as you said, this is the last house of the day, and they're visiting because he has expressed an interest in the church. So they're going in the hopes of getting him on board. So, and at this point, it's just now starting to rain really heavily. And so, they knock on the door, and we see the light go on behind the door window, but it takes him a little while before he finally opens it.
It takes like 45 seconds to a minute for him to open. And it gives us time to watch Sister Paxton practicing what she's going to say.
Yeah, she's reciting the monologue.
It's like, hi, I'm Sister Paxton, and we're from the church. Yeah, exactly. So she's like doing a little practice.
Heard of Jesus Christ? She's practicing, and then Mr. Reed opens the door with a charming smile
and a watering can, which
later on we find out what that is
in Act 3. But when you first see it, you're like, oh, look at this charming English gentleman who lives in Boulder and just came back from watering his plants or whatever.
But I think that was like a little clue that he gave out because it's raining, so he wouldn't have to water the plants.
That's a really good point. Why would he be watering plants when it's like pouring out? That's good.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't think of that.
In fact, like, as you're watching it, you realize that every single thing that looks like something he accidentally let slip was actually something he purposely let slip.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where by the time the movie's over, you go back and retrospectively look at every little decision and wonder how much of it was on purpose versus a mistake.
Yeah. Especially
because
for him.
Yeah.
it's so calculated. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing I like about that is, like, you have a movie like The Sixth Sense where once you know the twist, you kind of don't need to or want to watch the whole movie again because you're like, the whole movie's lying to you the whole time. This is more like the movie's not lying to you. Hugh Grant is lying to you. So it's like fascinating. It's fascinating the whole time. And my second watch was as good as the first, which is a really good thing. We'll be right back after this word from our sponsor.
So Princess is 5 months old.
Oh.
And she has beautiful long hair. And the other day she came up to me and nuzzled.
Has this ever happened to you? Are you at a party and a boring friend of a friend is telling you about their cat for 5 minutes straight? Do you have to go to a store, but there are 2 canvassers outside and you're bad at ignoring people? Try Fake Caller. Fake Caller is an app that calls your cell phone to give you an excuse to leave that awkward situation whenever you need.
My boyfriend was trying to end our relationship. I used Fake Caller to pretend my mom was calling and left before he could even bring it up.
A cute girl got my attention off the street. Then I realized she was trying to raise money for a vegan cat rescue. Thank you, Fake Caller.
Fake Caller is now available as Angry Boss for those hard-to-leave situations. So he's charmingly talking to them, and he like messes up their names on purpose. I mean, they have name tags, but he's like Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton. And she's like, no, Sister, I'm Sister Paxton, that's Sister Barnes. But it's like right there. So that's his way of kind of disarming them and making them feel like this guy's a little bumbling, he's going to be an easy convert. He's not that smart.
Paxton Barnes. It was such a Hugh Grant moment, his face.
Just talking about it now makes me want to go watch it again.
It's really a great casting decision because for this type of role, you need someone with Hugh Grant's like signature charm who he's not immediately off-putting, like you said.
No, disarming British awkwardness.
Yeah.
Like he's used it for good in the past, and this time he's using it for evil, which I love.
Yeah. He has played villains before, but even those were much lighter in comparison.
And they were like narcissists, like, like just very silly, like the one in Paddington 2.
Like in Paddington, yeah.
Yeah.
But this time...
he was a villain, yeah.
The TV show with Nicole Kidman, what is that
The
called?
Undoing.
Yes, The Undoing.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh, yeah. It's worth a watch. It's by I think it's the creators of Big Little Lies. So it has that kind of vibe, rich people and Nicole Kidman.
That's the time I experienced like the behind a charming smile.
The evil Hugh Grant.
Interesting. And worth pointing out, this is his first role in a horror film since the 1988 Ken Russell film, The Lair of the White Worm.
No way.
So it's been a while for him.
88.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've never seen that.
It's worth watching. It's a lot of fun.
I like Ken Russell though.
Yeah, you would definitely enjoy this one.
Nice.
Anyway, moving on.
So basically, he spends that time on the stoop trying to convince them to come in because it's starting to rain. They're like, "Have you heard about blah 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 and something and Noah?" And he goes, "Speaking of Noah, it's it's starting to rain. Maybe you want to come in, continue the conversation." And they're like, do you have a female roommate? Which is like, this guy looks like he's in his 60s. You think he still has a roommate? Maybe he does. Maybe he owns a house and has a roommate. But he's like, does my wife count? I have a soulmate. He's being it's so adorable.
Using their language.
Yeah, using their language, yeah. So he's able to invite them in. He's like, my wife is baking blueberry pie. And they cross through the threshold into the house.
They were very excited too. They were like, "Oh, we never turn down food."
That's true. Yeah, as if this is a thing that's happened before. You're right.
And then he offhandedly asks them in the doorway, "Oh, by the way, there's metal in the walls. Is that okay?" And they
Of
don't
course,
even
we
know
don't
what
mind.
to say to
Yeah.
that. They're like, "We don't mind," but it's almost like he's presenting it like it's a normal thing that people have, and they don't want to seem silly, so they don't ask why.
The same way as being like, oh, I own a pit bull. Like, are you allergic or something?
That's great. Yeah, 100%. He presents it like it's a
Yes.
completely normal thing.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That will come into play pretty soon.
It does, yeah. So yeah, they enter the house, and he goes off presumably into the kitchen while they stand around waiting for him, kind of scoping it out. The thing that I really like about the design of the house is something right from the beginning. You could tell something is off. It just feels not immediately homey in a way. Like there's one little tiny window that you could fit, like it's like a softball sized window that you could barely see out of.
You could not escape through that window.
No.
Yeah, and that I gotta say, that front living room area that they come into reminds me of like a funeral home waiting room.
Yeah.
Like coloring wise and the neatness of it. And then, so he brings them in, and then he's like, I'm gonna go get drinks and tell my wife that you're here and check on the blueberry pie. So he leaves the room, which gives them a chance to kind of look around and see what kind of house they're in.
Yeah, they're scoping it out. They see a like a butterfly that's kind of near the
window.
Like near the ceiling.
Oh, yeah.
At first, it's on the very small window you referred to,
Yes.
and then it ends up going to the light, which is above them, and getting trapped in the dome of the light, which is a really good metaphor for them in a way. Like they're heading towards the light and they get caught. They get trapped because they don't want to go down, And the only way out is down, which is pretty funny in the movie.
I really want to see the motto of the house now.
Yeah, it's as important to the script as like the Parasite house in Parasite.
That's definitely
okay.
true, yeah.
And then another point that I thought was really good in this scene when they're waiting for Hugh Grant to come back is Chloe East, Sister Paxton, points out to Sister Barnes that there's this framed picture that says, "Bless this mess," which is such a doddering kind of silly thing for someone to have. Like, oh, bless this mess. Like it's all a mess, but the place is spotless, which is like pretty funny.
And it's also made with like a cross-stitch kind of like arts and craft, right?
Yeah, it makes it very homey.
It's something you'd expect grandma to have up.
Yeah,
you know,
his wife probably made that. And
Oh, that's a good point. It's like
and
something
then one
his wife
photo.
made.
It's almost like a play, like a theater, like the set of a play.
all to make
Turns
it
out
seem
that-
like
yeah.
he's a normal guy.
Yes.
Turns out the mess is in his own brain.
Yeah.
So after they get to see a few of those things, he comes back with 2 sodas and a candle on a tray and like puts it in front of them. They sit down on the couch. He sits across from them.
Worth pointing out that as Mormons, you're not allowed to have caffeine, so
That's right.
a little bit
So
of a
it's like-
dig at that. Yeah.
Yeah, he like purposely brought them a drink they can't drink.
And then they had an explanation, right? It was something like, it's not that we are not allowed to have it, but we just don't want it right now or something.
I think she says that it doesn't explicitly say soda, but it's known that caffeine is not allowed. So, but yeah, she's like, no, it's fine. Yeah.
So at this point, yeah, he's still kind of playing the I'm interested in your religion. I'm very the first thing he says to them is, I think it's great to be religious. And Sister Paxton's like, our work here is done.
Yeah. They're like, great. Like, we
then
can
he
go
pulled
home
out-
now.
Pulled out this giant Book of Mormon and like throw it on the table, like boom.
Yeah.
All
and
the
it's-
little bookmarks as if he
And-
had been reading it.
It's full of annotations. Yeah. And they even say, they're like, you probably know this book better than we do. To which he reveals that he is a theologian, so he has a lot of knowledge about different religions and their backgrounds.
Before they're able to, because so Chloe East's character, the one, the more naive one, Sister Paxton, starts like, talking about like the religion and kind of reciting the script she has in her head. And Hugh Grant's character is like, oh wait, first before we start, where are you both from, right? And that's when they reveal, we get a little bit more character. Sister Paxton's like born in Utah, born into the church, one of 8 siblings. And then Sister Barnes says that they live in Utah too. Originally from Philadelphia, the mom's a recent convert after her dad passed away.
And that they recently moved to Salt Lake City. Yeah.
That's right. After Sister Barnes' dad passed away. And then he asks right away, like, how did your dad die? Which is a very uncomfortable question to ask right away.
To which he says Lou Gehrig's disease.
Oh, we forgot to mention that he asked them to guess what kind of pie is being made during this conversation.
Correct,
Blueberry pie.
Because they can smell it.
Yeah, they can smell it all right. As if it's almost like it's in the room already. So then, using that blueberry reference, when Sister Barnes says he died of Lou Gehrig's disease, he mishears it as blueberry's disease, and he's like, "Oh, blueberry's disease. That's just marvelous.
Yeah.
How lovely." To which Chloe East, Sister Paxton says, "Lou Gehrig's disease, Gehrig," and then he's like, "Oh, I'm so terribly sorry. What a terrible disease. That is horrible." And then
he said, "I thought you were making a joke.
I thought you were making a joke about the blueberries." I found out later from an interview with the directors that that is something that really happened to them at like a family gathering when they were younger. One of them, they were talking about Lou Gehrig's disease, and it was misheard as blueberry's disease at the table, and so they wrote it into the movie. But it works in the movie because it's very slowly, Hugh Grant goes from harmless like mistakes, like your Sister Paxton and your Sister Barnes, which is like, oh, this guy's so silly, to literally mishearing the disease that killed one of their dads. So his dodderingness starts to become a little sinister, because she doesn't want to talk about that. Like,
it's like testing their comfort level.
Yeah, and it's around that time he asks them if any of their deceased family members have like tried to contact them from the afterlife.
Such a good line.
Yeah.
He's like, has your dad tried to contact you? And then she says no, and he's like, wow, interesting. Kind of like as if he was like seriously considering that the dad might try to contact her.
Yeah.
Just to put it in their head.
He's sowing seeds of doubt very subtly over the course of the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And Sister Paxton delivers a line that when she dies, she would want to come back as a butterfly and land on the hands of her loved ones, which there's a recurring motif of butterflies that's important, and that plays a part later.
And she's saying that to kind of diffuse the weird tension in the room after the... Yeah, she's like...
She's shifting it, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I low-key thought about Sophie Thatcher in Yellow Jackets and Butterfly privately as a thought.
Do you like
you
Yellow
watch the
Jackets?
show?
I saw some episodes of it, and I did like it, but I didn't keep up with it for some reason. Do you like it?
Same. We watched...
Watch the first season.
We watched a lot of
yeah.
it, really invested, and then later on just kind of fell off. We didn't finish it.
I think my problem with it is it started to feel like The Killing and other shows where they're like, oh my God, we didn't know it was going to be such a big hit. Let's just drag it out. We got to stretch this thing.
To a point where you think maybe they don't know how it's going to end. So they're trying to make it make sense.
It seemed like a tricky premise to sustain for that long.
Mm-hmm.
It works really well in the first season.
Yeah.
Loved it.
From what I saw,
song, yeah.
But the first season almost like is so tight that when the second season starts to feel a little more like loose, you're like, this is not the same show I started.
Yeah,
they're just dragging it out. They need to hit their 10 episodes, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought all the performances in this were good. I also wanted to shout out Chloe East, who I first saw in The Fabelmans. She plays...
I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's so good. I loved it. And she plays Sammy Fabelman's love interest in that movie. Funny enough, another like devout Christian character who feels very much in parallel to her character here too. So she has a I don't know, I guess she has a lane so far. And also worth pointing out, I saw in an interview that purely by coincidence, the two of them, Sophie and Chloe, both raised Mormon. They're no longer practicing, but I think that definitely lends an authenticity to these characters.
Yes, totally.
That's why it's so detailed, the movie. Like, it's not just like magic underwear, am I right? You know, it's like very like detailed about the caffeine and like the way they're not allowed to enter the house for their safety, but also I don't think they're allowed to be alone in a room with a man without a woman present.
That's
and
so
all that kind of
interesting.
stuff.
Adding so many layers to it. They are watching themselves re-experiencing.
And it also, makes it so that they get to, as it's being written and directed by these people, they could probably say that wouldn't happen or this would happen or that.
I
kind
think,
of
yeah.
thing, you
Yeah,
know?
Chloe said in an interview that she did reach out to an old friend to verify certain details about Mormon. Yeah.
Oh, so one more thing before they leave that room, because I don't know, not that we're getting off track, but I just want to say, Hugh Grant starts talking about, ask them what their favorite fast food is, right,
Yes.
Tom?
Yes, he does. He says, if you had to pick what's your favorite, to which Sister Paxton goes on a hilariously long-winded, like, Burger King is better than this, which is better than this, and lists
Which is
off
better
like,
than this, which is better than this, which is better than this.
and then Sister Barnes just says like, well, I don't like Burger King. She's like, I like Wendy's. So they land on Wendy's as their favorite.
One of my favorite lines in the movie is, "We don't talk about Taco Bell."
Yes, the Taco Bell is actually important later on.
Yeah, the movie's really good at planting little things that, little seeds that only sprout in the third act, and that's one of them, that we don't talk about Taco Bell.
We can't talk about, we don't talk about Taco Bell without talking about Taco Bell.
Yeah, we can't
It's-
not talk about it without talking
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, exactly.
It's basically, we can't talk about, I guess, religion or faith without participating in it or the lack of.
I thought the thing I realized when I watched the movie the second time is that, at least from my perspective, Sister Paxton, Chloe East's character, her strength comes from her intellect, ironically, whereas Sister Barnes is kind of like the more emotional character, like the things that are being said, like she takes them personally, whereas Chloe East's kind of searching her mind for ways to keep things on track. Like when she brings up the butterfly, or like that whole thing where I like, this is better than this is better than this. Like a certain kind of brain can do that. Like not
Yeah.
everyone can just rattle off a bunch of things like that. So
That's actually a good point, because Sister Paxton is the one that's like excited. Ooh, I'm doing the drum rolls like da 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 da.
and a little naive,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
actually is like actually pretty intelligent on the inside.
They both are. I think they just carry themselves differently.
The actress
And yeah.
the actresses that Sophie is actually a feeler in real life. I feel like Chloe can be a thinker in terms of Myers-Briggs, because we type everybody.
For our listeners out there, Myers-Briggs is the MBTI, the Myers-Briggs personality test that talks about, it's astrology for smart people, but it actually is about like, the T and F. Like, are you more of a thinker or a feeler? Are you more of a sensor or intuitive and stuff like that, extrovert or introvert? But the way that they're situated in the movie is almost like kind of two opposites in that regard.
Like on the surface and deeper inside.
Okay, so back to the fast food. Hugh Grant, after they rattle off all their favorite fast foods, and Sister Barnes says, "I don't eat it," or "I try not to," or whatever. He says that he didn't mean to spend his life looking for the best fast food of religion, as it were, but in his searches and theological exploration, he ended up finding the one true religion. And then there's just like this weird, awkward pause after he says that. Because like this guy was a doddering, silly man who couldn't remember their names and came to the door with a watering can. And now suddenly he's like intensely interested in this and doesn't seem like he wants to be converted. There's something else going on here,
Yeah, you really can't make heads or tails of him.
He lowered their defenses with his like oh gosh kind of personality, and then like is immediately like as into this debate as possible.
Yeah. At some point he says, we're merely like exchanging an exchange of ideologies is the way he says it, which I think explains the movie pretty well overall. It's just a lot of back and forth about philosophy and religion.
I think he said it
Oh,
a
so there-
little
yeah.
later, but he said the transaction of ideology.
That's probably what I'm
Transaction
Oh, that's
of
good.
ideology.
That's good.
That might be. Yeah.
I forgot to say that before the fast food, he brought up polygamy.
Ah, yeah, that made
yes,
them
you're
so uncomfortable.
Yeah, like he purposely like brought up. He's like, I have an awkward question for you all, and Chloe East is like, well, if we don't tell us what this awkward thing is, I'm just gonna spend the rest of the day wondering what it was.
Yeah, I think that's the first awkward thing he asks them, actually. Because you're right. I think he says,
Yes.
"I have an awkward question." And then from there, he asks them all these other things, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
Oh no, before that was how'd your father die, which is like not a awkward religious question, and this is the first like awkward like religious.
I guess you're right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and he basically says, I fear that Joseph Smith used revelation to justify his affairs with other women. One of them, his 16-year-old housemaid. And I also fear that they used revelation as a way to get rid of polygamy because it was frowned upon and something that made it harder to convert people. And basically what he's saying is that there wasn't like, God wasn't like polygamy's good and then changed his mind. The people who ran the church just, Joseph Smith used revelation to justify what he was doing in his life, and then they used it again to get rid of something that was making it hard to like convert people. So it actually wasn't coming from God. It was just like a business decision, basically, is what he's saying.
Exactly.
I'm really interested in people with a religious background. When they watch this movie, at what point did they go, oh, wait, oh, I feel like attacked, or, oh, this is so true. Now I'm going to go home and think about it.
Exactly. It's one of the things I really like about the movie is we've had several religious-themed horror movies within the past year or so, and I think I like this one maybe the most out of them, and for the reason being that it really encourages thought and conversation amongst people who see it, and I appreciate that about it.
It's kind of the opposite of the other ones. I don't know if you're thinking of Immaculate and the First Omen.
Immaculate, First Omen. I don't think it was this year, but like the new Exorcist came out, I think maybe this time last year. So yeah, we've had a few of them. And those were, those are primarily Catholic based. And this one uses Mormonism really as a jumping off point to go into a lot more stuff.
Yeah, more like philosophical discussion and like the push and pull of belief and disbelief. Those movies are more like, oh my God, it's a demon.
Yeah.
But also, no, I would say like one thing I do like about Immaculate and the First Omen is that the villains in that movie are still the church.
Oh yeah.
It's not because usually it's like The Conjuring where it's like the power of Christ compels you, and like people are like there's these demons that can be thwarted with a cross and stuff. Those movies are like the church are purposely trying to bring back Jesus, so they're taking DNA from a nail and impregnating all these women to see if they can get like get the Son of God back.
And they came out within like a month of each other, and they're so thematically similar.
They're very similar. The First Omen is like they're trying to bring a demon out because they think that there's belief in the church is declining, so they need a real demon in order to get people back in, which is basically the same as Immaculate, but the inverse,
Which is the modern like Immaculate conception, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then this is just talking about religion, basically.
I think Heretic to me feels a little closer to the Conclave. The way it is about the church, the people, and like on a human level, how are you living your life? Like who do you listen to when it's not obvious that you have to do one thing or the other? It's when you can choose, what do you choose?
Did you see Conclave?
No, but a lot of people saying I should check it out, but I haven't seen it yet.
Worth it. Great performances. Ray Fiennes is amazing. All the other popes are amazing. I'm not going to say anything, and it looks beautiful because it takes place in Rome. So
it looks boring, but it's very entertaining, I think.
Yeah, I kind of wrote it off from the trailer, but everyone's like, "No, you should watch it." So I will eventually.
It's campy too, so it's not like serious.
I like that. Good. Yeah,
cool. Yeah. It's got like a weird kind of like high drama thing, but like in the Catholic Church, so it's pretty
nice.
Funny. Okay. After all the awkward conversation in the living room, Hugh Grant goes to they kind of like they sense that something's off, so Sister Barnes goes, "Can we please meet your wife? Can she like pop her head in here so we know?" And he goes, "I'll check." So he leaves the sodas that they couldn't drink and the candle still lit Oh, he blows the candle out, actually, and they leave it in front of them. And he leaves the room, giving them time to kind of feel awkward and for Sister Barnes to turn the candle and realize that the candle is blueberry pie scented.
This was kind of the big reveal in the trailer, and they use it as the poster as well, but it's understandably why. It's a really good reveal.
I didn't see the trailer.
Oh, that's good.
I don't know how. Yeah. Did they like tell you why that's meaningful?
The trailer really does not give away much at all, but it goes through it goes through the beginning of do you like pie? And then saying it's good to be religious. He goes, and then they see it's the scented candle, so it's like, okay, something's really up. But you really don't get like too much more. It's a little tease. And then they show
it would be a real bummer if they like kind of really revealed that like that candle means that they're trapped, or like that he's not really what he says, or that there's no blueberry pie. We'll get to that later.
Wouldn't be a good trailer.
You get like that much, but like nothing else after that.
Okay.
But anyway, it's a really good.
It would
reveal.
be typical of Hollywood to reveal the twists of the movie just to get people in, not knowing that you need those to be intact so that the movie's better.
You do, but it's a really good hook, and I would say from this moment on is when things really kind of kick in. And
we'll be right back after this word from our sponsor.
At Home Aromatics Scented Candles, we know that it's the little things that transform a house into a home. Introducing the new baked goods collection from Home Aromatics, featuring heavenly fragrances from all of your favorite desserts, including apple crumble, raspberry tart, strawberry shortcake, and blueberry pie. Buy one or buy them all. Our candles make for the perfect gift. This holiday season, treat your family, friends, loved ones, acquaintances, co-workers, or church members to a Home Aromatics scented candle.
It becomes like
the first time I was late to the theater, so this is when I started. You know how much I missed?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Olive walked in
I was
on the
gonna
blueberry
ask.
candle being turned around and had no context.
And then I was just whispering to John, just tell me one thing. Tell me one thing. Why are they doing this? How do they know they're not safe?
That's a decent chunk.
I swear I saw when she turned the candle, it was from a low angle. Then I was staring at her neck. I was like, there's a shadow on her neck. What's happening? I don't know if it is true, but I felt like there is like an early indicator about something about her neck. I don't know if we will find out. If I meet the director, I'll find out.
I realized when he leaves the room, that's when they're like, we should go. Let's get out of here. And then they go and try the front door. It won't open. And they also realize that he has taken their coats earlier. And the bike lock for their bikes is in one of the coats in the other room with him. So.
The key to the bike lock.
It's worth saying. He basically says, come with me to the back for pie. And then they pretend like, oh, we're getting a call from the church. We got to take this. And then that's when they try the door.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Okay, you're right. And then he's like, "Oh, you're getting a call. I'll just wait in the other room. You take that call. Let's just mention that there's metal in the walls of the house. He brought that up before.
Yeah. So no, this is actually important.
And Sister Barnes in front of him say, "Oh, hi." She's like actually picking up the phone.
Yeah, she's on the phone acting, going, "Oh, hi. Yeah, you need us back. We need to go back."
Yep. So like you said, they try the door. They say, "Can you crawl through this window?" Which no one possibly could. And then, like you said, yes, they he has their jackets, and which has the bike lock keys in them. So they say, okay, we basically gotta go to him and ask him for the coats, and that we gotta get out of here.
We have to interact with him to get out of here. We can't just leave.
Yeah.
Also, they were saying, this is interesting too, it's really snowing out at this point. It went from rain to like a full-on blizzard, and they're like, can we do it? Can we walk from here without our coats and without the bikes? And she's like, it's like 4 miles.
Yeah.
So
it's like 2 miles.
Sister
Maybe
Barnes
longer.
is like, well, one of them says 2, and then the other one goes, I think it's like more like 4. And then Sister Barnes is like, I'll do it. Fuck it, I'll do it. I'll walk. Like, they didn't want to, but they were open to the idea of just getting out, you know?
Yeah.
That's when they found out the door is locked.
Also, that's another thing to remember is that sometime in the middle of their conversation about fast food, all the lights just go out. And he says the lights are on a timer, right? Or at the time he says that happens.
Yeah.
So they're kind of forced to interact with him. In their mind, they have to go in the other room and meet him on his turf to get their coats back. We have to just, kind of
I think one
interact
of them
with him.
asked, should we ask him for help?
Yeah, I think that's Sister Paxton. So yeah, they very reluctantly inch their way through this dark hallway toward the room, and they open the door, and it looks like the inside of a church. There's kind of like an altar in the middle, and then there's two doors, and then he walks out, and they say, "Hey, our church called, and they need us back immediately." To which he says, "You two don't have to tell little white lies to leave. Like, you're welcome to leave."
Yeah. If you want, you can leave anytime. You don't have to pretend you got a call. And they're like, "No, we didn't. We got a call." And he's like, "But you remember me telling you there's metal in the walls when you came in. So there's no way you got a call." So they're caught in their little white lie.
I just want to point out that when this happened in the theater, my theater was like dead quiet and almost completely full. But when he says that, when he says, "Oh, actually, no, it's a little bit later than that." So, and then shortly after this, they ask about the door, to which he says the door is on a timer and it's not going to be open until morning. When he said that, a guy in the front row of the theater just loudly goes, "Oh!"
For everyone else.
Yeah.
He was really engaged.
Yeah.
Good for him. I'm glad. I like it when people are like so in a movie that like when something drops like that, they have like an excited reaction. That's hilarious. One thing I will say is like they weren't being stupid throughout the movie. It's not like they're in this situation where in like typical slasher movies, we're like, why is she going in that door? Why did she leave alone? Why are you guys splitting up? Or like, why are you making this dumb decision? They made all the smart decisions and are still trapped, which is kind of great,
Yeah, they really rely on their survival instincts in this. Yeah.
They're not just like hysterical and like unable to like function. They're like really smart, and he's still just like one step ahead the whole time, which makes it like a more interesting movie.
I like the fact that this movie is very intellectual, but also it has traditional horror elements. Later on, there will be more, but I wanted to point out the first one. When they went through the dark hallway, they saw like a dark figure, which they thought, it must be a person, a human.
The dark hallway from the living room into the church room.
Is it Mr. Reed? And then is it Mr. Reed? And the figure didn't move. Like, I love that there are traditional horror elements like sprinkled throughout the whole movie. And then turned out it was just a statue of
Plato.
Did we find out? Is it Plato?
It
One
looks
of the
like
philosophers.
Plato. It immediately made me think of Plato's Cave, which is basically his parable of people living deep underground in a cave who only see some light coming through, I think, down the hall, and they can't really like understand what they're looking at. They're too deep in the cave. So as you slowly walk out the cave through the hallway, you're walking into enlightenment. You're getting more information. You're learning more about the world. So I almost feel like Mr. Reed planted Plato there because he considers moving from the living room into that altar like leaving Plato's cave. So that was a weird idea I got from that.
In philosophies and religion, also, like, I'm sure for a lot of people, they would consider philosophy like logical, but then for religious people might not be something they live by. So they have to past that also.
Yeah, so that's like a really like kind of on the nose philosophical metaphor, but I liked it. I like the idea that Plato is guarding that room, like you're gonna come to the light in this room in a way.
Oh,
so that's them. That's them leaving the living room and going into the altar place that Tom was talking about. It's got two. You walk in and there are like pews, like he took from a church, and there are two doors behind him, a green one and a purple one. And the room has like a lot of books and like photos on the wall.
Doors are in different colors?
Yeah, one's one's green and one's purple.
How come I never noticed that?
I don't think I noticed that either.
I thought they looked identical in my head.
I'm pretty sure that they were green and purple, but I have to like.
I love that carnival music. Like whatever he played, it was so playful when he walked into it. And then which room? It's almost like a game. Like which pocket,
So they get in there and they're like, "Hey, we need to go." And he's like, "You can leave anytime," but like. Him standing in the middle of the room, not like being aggressive, still being like, anytime you want to leave, you can leave. Just leave. It's not a problem. So it's like he's messing with them too, telling them they can leave while not letting them leave. It's like a very strange scene. And he's smiling politely with his Hugh Grant smile. and you can tell they feel trapped and they don't know why. It's like pretty awesome.
He's giving them the illusion of choice, more or less.
So he's like, your coats are right over there. Just grab your coats. So they inch over and get their coats. Sister Barnes had the key to the bike lock, but she checks her pockets and it's not there anymore. And then it turns out it was in the other person's pocket. And it was in Sister Paxton's pocket.
They exchange an odd glance, sort of like, oh, I thought you had it. Why do I have it?
Yeah, but I think there's a part of them that's like he messed with it and he put it in the wrong pocket.
Yeah.
Or so they think. He fucked up and put it in the wrong pocket. Is probably how they thought about it.
Well, I think from here, is this the whole Monopoly monologue?
Yeah, yeah.
Fun.
This is when Mr. Reed becomes Professor Reed.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like a history lesson.
They argue a little bit because they're like, "Can you please just open the front door?" And he's like, "I'm sorry, it's on a timer. It's locked till morning.
Yeah.
If you want to leave, you have to go through one of these doors down." And then
he's like, "We're on a hill, so you have to go down in order to get out."
Mm-hmm. And they're still being a little polite. They're like, "It's kind of weird that your doors are on a timer. That's not normal."
And that you cannot turn it off. Yeah, she's brave to be asking that because it's logical. I love that when he said, choose a door, and they said, should we have a preference?
Oh, yes. And he says, yes, you should have a preference. Yeah.
You should definitely have a preference. Yeah. So at this point, he's talking about somehow he gets it all down to Monopoly. He's telling them that, well, maybe Tom, you can describe this because he starts with this game from like the early 20s or something called the Landlord's Game. Right?
Yeah. So to the best of my recollection,
is it a real game?
I believe it is. Yeah. I think everything he's saying is true. There was a version of this game called the Landlord Game. For whatever reason, it didn't take off.
It has everything. It has community chest. It has jail. You can buy property, and the whole point is to buy so much property that you have a monopoly on the property.
The railroads, all that.
Yeah, that's right, and the railroads too. But it didn't take off until the Parker brothers kind of bought it from another person who stole the idea from this lady who made the first one. So she didn't even sell it to the Parker brothers. A guy who copied her idea was able to sell it, and she died in obscurity.
Yeah.
Which is,
and then it was Monopoly, and then of course became the biggest selling
game.
And just that there have been iterations on Monopoly after, like the hilarious, Bob Ross one.
He basically lays out the Western religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Yeah. And he calls them Judaism, the landlord's game. Which, if you really think about that also sounds like vaguely racist toward Jewish people, because they're known for being landlords. And then Christianity is the Monopoly, the Parker brothers, the one that's advertised, that made the most money, the most popular. And then there was this other game, not the Bob Ross one yet, but a new modern Monopoly with new animation.
More like technological Monopoly.
A more modern Monopoly, and he called that Islam. And then he brings out the Bob Ross Monopoly and says that's Mormonism.
That's Mormonism.
and he's talking about iterations, how it's basically all the same story from top to bottom.
And then he does a similar analogy with a song by the Hollies, which then was that Radiohead was then accused of copying with Creep. Which then...
And then Radiohead sued Lana Del Rey for one of her songs that sounded like the Creep chord progression and melody too.
Yeah. And just how all of this plays into the idea of iterations and everything's copying one thing, and so...
It is so fun.
Is there one, he's basically saying, is there one true faith? It's all just actually iterations of the same story,
It's very fun to mix Lana Del Rey and Radiohead into this kind of talk of ideology, and it makes it timeless and easy to digest. And these girls are Mormons, but they also know who Lana Del Rey is.
Yeah.
There's a really good way to talk to the audience about it, because he's in this old-fashioned house, which is kind of like a weird puzzle box in a way, and he's talking to two Mormon missionaries that are maybe a little naive about pornography and other things. But then, in order to keep us engaged, he's bringing up Lana Del Rey, he's bringing up Monopoly, Radiohead, and at some point, Jar Jar Binks and Star Wars.
Yes.
Yeah, you get to hear him sing both Creep and do a Jar Jar Binks impression.
Yes. Oh my God. I cracked up so loud.
The funniest thing ever when he's like, "What the hell am I doing here?" And then he says, "Like, this is probably what you're all thinking right now."
Yeah.
There's something really satisfying about a man who's, an actor who's kind of like entertaining himself and like pleased with his own jokes and stuff in front of you, and you're just completely awkward and angry. It's like really good. Like that kind of trope in movies where someone is just completely like that. And it feels really good to watch him like singing Creep to these two like trapped women. It's like, I don't know, it's just really interesting.
And he said, as I got closer to God through genres and vicarious studies, and I took notes because I really like how he called it. He described how these girls could be politely indulging the lie of what people were telling them when they were young, when they were impressionable age.
In the living room, he says, you know, the more I studied and the more involved I got, you know what I found? The more you know, the less you know, which was a really interesting line too.
And then
so back to that room.
Sister Barnes said, are we talking about religion, board games, or music?
And he says, yes. So she fights back a little. She she tries to argue back about because he was saying that the Jewish religion is the least popular. Why? Because they don't advertise. And she says, no, you're not even talking about, you didn't even bring up the Holocaust. But this is actually before, okay, so he does the Monopoly metaphor, and then he turns on like a film slide carousel and starts talking about all religions through history. And he has a whole wall of different gods that all had 12 disciples, were born of a virgin, who died and came back to life. And it's all different religions. It's not nothing to do with the Western religions either. There's Egyptian, there's I don't know if it was Krishna, there's other different figures in religious history. I know that Buddha also apparently the story about Buddha is that he walked out of his mother's womb fully grown. I don't know. There's crazy stuff like that. And also went into the desert and was tempted by the devil and all that kind of stuff. So he's basically just saying that all these stories, all these religions are kind of based on very similar stories, and that he's been trying to I guess filter all that down to the one true faith. These are all iterations. What's the one true faith? And then in this room, he says he found it. At this point, they really want to leave. So he writes the word belief on one door.
And then disbelief on the other.
And disbelief on the other door. And he says, you guys have to choose which door to walk through. On one hand, there's belief. Like a God who is so insecure that he gets mad if you don't worship him, and he doesn't like gay people even though he created them. He said, that's terrifying. On the other hand, there's the disbelief door, where just horny microorganisms living on a planet and fighting to survive, and none of it's real. That's also terrifying. So he asked them to choose a door to walk through to leave, because he says both of those doors lead down into the basement, but then out of the house, because he's on the side of a hill. So somehow to leave out the back, you got to go down, which, I still can't picture what kind of house this is where that would be the case. I've seen people live on a hill and never had to walk into the basement. So to get out, I
really enjoy him writing believe on the left, a door on the left, and disbelieve on the door on the right with chalk or something, because it feels like he's teaching.
Oh, it's basically a college lecture.
Yeah.
So the interesting part is when that happens with the belief and disbelief, Sister Paxton, the more naive one, is still trying to placate him. And she's like, we should go through the disbelief door. He's right. I agree. We don't believe. And Sister Barnes goes...
she stands her ground. Yeah.
Stands her ground and says, do you still believe in God? Then we go through the belief door. We don't,
well, let
we don't
God
have to
decide what happens.
What you think you need. God decides.
She's
exactly.
She's like, let's not do that just because we think it's what he wants us to do.
Exactly. Let's not just placate this man. Let's still stand our ground. So then what happens? They end up walking down the belief door, and he's standing at the top. Oh, the funny part is right before they go in, Sister Paxton turns and goes, "Thank you so much for your mentorship."
We're gonna leave now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna leave now. Thanks so much for your mentorship. Is hilarious.
She's-
still doing that thing.
Yeah, her
that polite thing.
smile is like involuntary. Like it's just there to be to people please, and it's like built into her system.
So they walk down that door, and then Hugh Grant is at the top of the door, and then they're like, "Are you coming?" And then he just locks them in.
And it's pitch dark. They turn on the light on their phone and start walking down.
Would you say, Tom? Would you say this is the beginning of Act 2 or Act 3? Act 2, right? It's like a totally different movie.
How many
once they go down
total?
there.
There's typically 3.
I would say that's 2.
That's 2.
Because of where things end up at the end. That also feels like a third act, because then we're at the end we're basically with Mr. Reed and just Sister Paxton, and it's a different set of moves, I think. So this is where the movie, like the first time I saw it, I'm not gonna say it lost me, but it definitely I was out of the movie for a second with what happens next. I was like, oh, this is a movie. But that's just me. Tom, you want to tell them what happened?
Yeah, so they walk down into this. It's like a cellar. It feels almost like a dungeon. And in the cellar, there is a table set up with a chair and pretty much nothing else. It's leaking water onto it. There's also a speaker so they can hear him singing Creep from the other room. And
in the beginning, they didn't know yet that he can hear.
Yeah, I think so. And then
I don't even know, like a spider walked down the middle of that thing that looked like a speaker. I thought it was just like a horn, like a metal tube that was carrying sound,
When I say speaker, that's what I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Because I thought it was a speaker too, but then something happened.
It's like, I don't know what they're called. Almost like
an old record player would have that big horn, like the famous RCA logo with the dog listening to the,
Yeah.
So it magnifies the sound and pushes it down a long metal tube and vibrates out the end.
Exactly. Just a very primitive way to transfer sound.
If they know that Mr. Reed can hear them, they wouldn't be talking about their plans in front of it.
Well, that's true. Can he hear them when they speak?
Oh, he can, I think.
You're right, I think. Anyway.
Okay.
At some point from the other door, because we should say that both doors lead the same way.
That's called thematic.
Yeah.
Both belief and disbelief lead to the same basement is basically kind of his premise in a way.
And in terms of what I said earlier about like illusion of choice, like,
true.
they're very much on a path. And so this woman walks down. She seems either ancient or just like on the brink of death. She can barely move. And she's like covered in, I don't know, a cloth. It looks very religious.
Bare feet. She looks
Bare
very
feet.
bony, very somewhat dirty.
Yeah. And places a blueberry pie onto the table. And at this point, Mr. Reed starts talking and saying that he's going to prove to the two sisters that he's found the true religion and that they're about to witness like a miracle.
Yeah, he's like, it's a very ancient religion.
And this is a prophet.
And I need you guys to tell me what you see. You got to take notes.
Yeah. He's like, he said, I brought you here because I need a witness.
Oh, that's right. Mm-hmm.
To experience this. And he explains that the blueberry pie is poisoned and that the prophet is going to eat it, die, and then come back to life somehow.
He needs them to verify that she's dead.
Yes.
Yeah. So she does. She eats it. She falls face first into the blueberry pie.
Face plants right into it.
Yeah, her mouth and nose are in the pie. There's no way she's breathing. But they have to lift her head and take a pulse on her femoral artery or whatever the artery is on the side of the neck.
And then check the mouth to make sure she's not breathing. And they verify that this woman is in fact dead.
Imagine these.
And then he's like, you will witness a resurrection now.
These two girls already so scared. You have to have a new person entering the scene and dying in front of them. When the face fell into the pie, it was like boom.
Not only are they scared, but from Hugh Grant's perspective, they're susceptible to faith. They're susceptible to believing something that they're shown. So he's showing them, quote unquote, showing them a miracle. and theoretically they should be very susceptible to believing it. So at this point, after the prophet dies, the doorbell rings. And it turns out there's been an ongoing thing in the background that's been happening the whole time. Elder Kenny, who is like, I guess, the head of this local chapter of the Mormon Church, Topher Grace of all people, has been checking the logs and realizes that they never logged in. So he goes looking for them, knowing that they were stopping at these houses and stuff. So he rings the bell, and that calls Hugh Grant away from the prophet and from this whole thing, which makes them run up to one of the doors, either the belief or disbelief door, and start trying to scream as loud as they can to get Topher Grace, Elder Kenny's attention when he's at the door. And then also what that also shows is that he can unlock the front door anytime. You just have to open up a light switch and like set this weird timer, like reset it to the beginning.
It is on a timer, unlocks, but yeah, he does have to
he has to do a thing.
He has to turn it off.
Yeah, if I'm going to watch this movie again, I will count how many lies he has told throughout the movie.
Oh my God, there's too many. And so, yeah, while that is happening, while he's distracted, they also notice that there is a book of matches on a rug, and so they're trying to pull it towards them, and their plan is they're going to use a match to start a fire and smoke it out and hopefully get the attention. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, when he opened up the Monopoly games and started doing that, he also lit 2 candles on the left and right of the Monopoly games. I don't know, just, theater. So the matches were on that desk. And when he says it's all garbage, he sweeps all the Monopoly things off the table onto the floor. The book of matches flies onto the rug. So that's how it got there.
It's also worth mentioning that when he does that, he knocks down a letter opener on the ground, and then Sister Barnes picks that up.
I bet he didn't plan this part, Mr. Reed.
The matches?
For everything to fall off. Do you think he planned for the letter opener to be lying around?
No. I don't think he planned the letter opener, but the matches is a hard one, I think every piece of information that he gets from them,
he's always studying them.
Yeah, he's always studying them. So the fact that they were able to get the matches, even though he doesn't really have a reaction when he sees them trying to light stuff.
No, he just goes like,
let me help you.
He just puts it out. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, let me help you with that. But he does, this is all going into the file folder in his head about each of the women. And he's like, oh, okay. They're good at improv. Like they can improvise on the spot. They're not helpless. Because a different type of person might have just stayed in the basement and cried the whole time. They were trying to escape the whole time. So he knows he's actually he's working with people who are a challenge. They're not easy to fool.
Yeah.
So while they're at the door, they're able to get the matches. But as they're trying to light something, so it looks like they're trying to light one of their coats on fire. I don't know what the plan is. Maybe the smoke's supposed to go through that little tube into the room. I don't know what they think's going to happen.
It's not super well thought out. Yeah.
Yeah, but we get this. Oh, okay. So sorry. Let me back up. So they're up at the door screaming, right? When they come back down, Chloe East, Sister Paxton says, the prophet moved. And Sister Barnes is like, no, it's the same position. And then she's like, no, that the head's in a different position. And we notice that the prophet's head is a little bit to the left because, her mouth and nose are out of the pie so she can breathe. So then when they're lighting the matches, we have our big jump scare where you pull back on and realize that the prophet is standing behind them as they're lighting the matches.
And sort of whispers some gibberish to the two of them.
But there were clouds, and I felt disassociated, and then she's puts her finger up to her mouth like a shush sound and goes, "It's not real," is the last thing she says.
And then Mr. Reed comes down and then escorts her out, brings her upstairs. And then at this point, he says to them, okay, let me get your thoughts. What do you think of this? Is it a miracle or not?
He even has a notebook. He pulled out a notebook and a pen.
He's like, tell me what you heard. It's very important. Tell me what you heard.
And Sister Paxton immediately says, yeah, you're absolutely right. She was dead and she was back to life. Yeah, absolutely. It was resurrection. But Sister Barnes is less convinced.
She said
Sister
it's a
Barnes
magic
thinks,
trick.
And that is where we find out why they don't talk about Taco Bell. Because she goes, I was legally dead. I got poisoned at a Taco Bell and had all the things that the prophet said. I also felt disassociated. I saw clouds but no heaven and all that stuff.
That your brain kind of conjures up these images when you're in that state.
When you stop getting breath, yeah. So she's basically saying nothing she said sounds like the other side. And then she says, I think you've been keeping this woman captive and killing them and bringing them back to life over and over again just to get research about the other side, which is not exactly what was happening, but that's a very good theory. That's very good. And I think at this point, in my mind, this is when Mr. Reed realized that Sister Barnes is not the one, like you're not going to convince this person.
Yeah. And at some point, Sister Barnes, right before Mr. Reed comes down, Sister Barnes hands Sister Paxton the letter opener. And she says to her, he's had his eye on me, like from the start. He won't suspect you. So when you have the chance, stab him with this.
When I say
the word magic underwear, stab him in the throat.
So I think that's when Mr. Reed actually heard their plan upstairs. And he knows what to do when he heard magic underwear.
Yeah, so he answered the door. He kind of, puts on his bumbling, oh gosh, I don't know anything personality, and is able to get Elder Kenny, Topher Grace, to leave. And that's when we realize that the bikes are no longer locked to the front because it pulls out on the house as he's leaving and shows that there's no longer bikes there.
Yeah, well, it's a funny moment where he leaves and then he comes back, and at this moment, I think you're thinking, oh, he's going to confront him about the bikes. And he says, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, have you gotten this pamphlet yet? And hands it over. Yeah, we know that something happened to the bikes, that Mr. Reed moved them.
It's funny because when they give him the pamphlet, when they first come to the house, the two sisters, he's like, oh, I have it already, but you can never have too many. And then with Elder Kenny, he's like, no, I don't have it. Thank you. He's always thinking. He's always saying exactly what needs to be said to get rid of the person or bring the person in. Very clever man.
The second doorbell that Elder Kennedy rang really gave us hope that he's going to notice something's weird or footsteps or maybe he'll come save the girl this time. But nope. He's just doing his job. He's just preaching.
So he goes downstairs after the second doorbell. They're lighting stuff. He goes, oh, give me that match. And he uses it to light that lantern, I think, and then blows it out. And this is when, I think that's when Sister Barnes is saying it's not a miracle, it's a near-death experience. And Sister Barnes says it's a magic trick, like magic underwear. And you think that Chloe East, Sister Paxton, is going to cut his throat with the letter
She's like
opener.
holding it, so you think that
She's holding it, so it's ready to do that. And then there's a slice across the throat, and it pulls out, and you realize that he has used a box cutter to cut Sophie Thatcher, Sister Barnes's throat.
In a movie full of surprising moments, this might have been the most surprising one.
Yeah.
I really did not expect her to go this, not even that long into the movie. Like, there's still a lot left after this.
Yeah, that's true.
Act 2,
Yeah.
So she basically dies, or I don't know if she's
bleeding.
Okay, so we'll find out at the end how we all feel about that. But she seems dead.
You're certainly made to think she is, yeah.
Yeah. I think he's like, it's like really creepy because like Sister Paxton comes down and sees them and he's like sitting on the floor with her on his lap and he's like, hello, are you awake? So she's going to come back. She's going to come back.
Yeah, that's what he says. He says, no, don't worry. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we forgot to say that he asks them at some point. He says, who wants to volunteer to try it out for themselves?
That's right. He's been trying to convince them to die and come back.
And that's what
it's their ideas.
That's what Sister Barnes says. She says, I think you're doing this so you can kill us and make it think that this was our choice.
And then that's the part where my brain went like, what? Wait, her arm, like Sister Barnes' arm is being cut open by Mr. Reed to prove a point. And that was kind of hard to watch because you're thinking, oh, this is the girl that was just alive and we're on her side and now she's dead. And what did Mr. Reed?
He takes his box cutter and cuts kind of the underside of her. I don't know what part of the arm this is.
Her
and starts
right
rooting
arm.
around in there. He's like, I think I found it, and then he pulls out a little thing and goes, no, that's just a bunch of veins.
It's just a vein, yeah.
Then he goes in again, pulls out a little metal object, and he's like, oh, see, this is why she's not coming back. She's not real. She's an NPC. She's
that we're in the Matrix.
Yeah, we're actually in the Matrix, and Sister Paxton, so we're all in a simulation right now, and this was like, sorry to say that she's not real, and so if I kill you, you will actually pass from the Matrix through a wall into reality and wake up in the real world. So he's still trying to convince her to allow him to kill her, and then he asks, what do you think of that? And that's when Sister Paxton shows how clever she actually is, because she's like, I think that your prophet wasn't supposed to say it's not real at the end. She had a script to read. I don't think she actually died. I think you killed a woman and replaced her with another woman who had a script. And now that didn't work out and we didn't believe it, you're kind of like... You're kind of improvising now and making up a new story. Like, and now your new story is suddenly, oh, it's the Matrix, and I should allow you to kill me so I can wake up. But that's not.
It was birth control in Sister Barnes' arm.
Yeah, she had implanted birth control.
Yeah.
Which you see him notice that she has a little scar on her arm way back in the movie when
we
they're
saw
in
it
the
a second
living
time
room.
when we watched the movie that there's a very tiny mark on her arm.
It's like a line with a dot, and he registers it in his brain like, oh, okay. So he just has that there in his head.
It's interesting when Sister Paxton is taking it all in and analyzing, because at the same time, she's thinking this girl, Sister Barnes, that I've been with for a long time, we have a friendship, we're working together. There's so much I don't know about this girl because she has a birth control implant in her arm. What does that even mean,
Well, yeah, Hugh Grant's character, Mr. Reed, is like, what do you think of that? Why would you didn't know about that? And then Sister Paxton is like, well, it would have been frowned upon by the church, so she probably kept it secret.
Yeah, they wouldn't allow it.
So basically what I think is happening from this point forward in the movie is Sister Paxton is starting to accept a little bit. Like, ironically, as she's fighting for her life with Mr. Reed, she's also realizing that the world isn't as simple and naive as she wanted it to be. Mm-hmm. Like, she likes having this life where she's like, oh, when I die, I can come back as a butterfly. I didn't even know reincarnation was a Mormon thing, but whatever. But she has this, like, she wants the world to be simple and sweet like that. And at this point, she's realizing this person lied about birth control. We've been lying to try to get out of the house, like pretending we got a call. Like, it's all kind of adding up in her head and giving her a new outlook on faith. At the same time, not really agreeing with him. So it's like, if you're getting all this information from the world and you're getting like a logical thing, why would you believe what he said about the Matrix? So those two things also don't really like fit together. So she's like realizing that everyone is like believing what they need to believe to just get along, you know, in life.
In the first scene, when Sister Paxton was talking about the Magnum condom, Sister Barnes were acting all like innocent. Like, my sister said that they are actually not the same size.
My sister's husband or boyfriend had a giant...
It was like sister's ex-husband.
Sister's ex-husband had a giant pea, she called it.
So yeah, Sister Paxton realized that Sister Barnes was just making up stuff also at the time, pretending to be innocent about sex.
Yeah, they have to talk around certain subjects to still consider themselves holy or to seem naive in front of each other. Mm-hmm. Because it's part of the religion is to seem naive, to be open to these beliefs in front of each other. Because I think the real Sister Barnes is like, she grew up in Philadelphia and she's a recent convert. She's lived her life. She has birth control in her arm. She's not this naive person that she has to be for the church.
She has more life experience outside of the...
She has more life experience, yeah. And the other one, Sister Paxton, grew up in the church, grew up in Utah. she has less life experience and wants to believe that things are as simple as she's been told. She wants to believe it.
She's like deeper in the faith, yeah.
Yeah. So this Act 3, where it's just where it becomes a two-person play between Mr. Reed and Sister Paxton is basically Sister Paxton's journey from kind of belief to skepticism in a way. Because she's like starting to accept all these things. Like when she says, because the church would have frowned on it, she's like realizing how many lies her belief is built on. She's been realizing it the whole time.
And
so she's accepted it in a way. She's in like a place of acceptance of the illusion.
Accepting
I think, or
there's
that it is an
something
illusion.
more to what she's been told. Yeah. She's like, haven't figured out this magic trick, but there must be a way that someone can come. I think Mr. Reed said, there must be a way, a door, a secret, pathway for someone else to come in to switch out the body. So what do you think? And she's looking around. She's like, unless, and flip over the table and dig her nails into the dirt. And she found a handle and and pulled it open. There's definitely a pathway down in the basement, off the basement.
Barbarian-esque.
Yeah. So he asked, like, how could you find out? Would you climb down there and see if there's a dead body? And she said, if I have to.
So she did, because she realized that she wants to know the truth. She doesn't want to just live with faith anymore. And this is why I'm saying it's like her Act 3 journey from blind faith to like skepticism to like needing to know. Like, so in a way, he's converted her to him, but not in the way that he wanted to.
And also because she doesn't really have another choice. Like she has to go. She has to go down there. And sure enough, she's right. There is the dead body there, and so she says, "I knew it." And then he closes the trap door.
He locks her in.
Yeah.
And then she walks through the bottom basement, and you see a bunch of like religious figurines and other stuff just kind of all laying around, and it's really spooky. And then she comes to a door, and that door is locked with their bike lock.
To which she has the key. So she opens that, and then that leads into another room.
And that kind of shows that from the very beginning, when he met them and took their coats, he somehow, from talking to them on the stoop, knew that she was going to be the one to make it to the end because she had the most earnest faith.
Yeah, that's way early when he took that jacket, when they took that coats and switched the key.
I mean, he took the coats. Maybe he didn't switch the key until much later. Like he leaves the room again to check on his wife, quote unquote. And maybe at that point he had decided, okay, I talked to both of them. This one's the naive one. This one's too skeptical. Let me move the key to that pocket to kind of show her that from the whole time I've been in control and I knew from the beginning and that kind of thing.
Which Sister Barnes called as well.
That's right. Sister Barnes was like, he's been watching me the whole time. He knows you take the letter opener. You're right. So she opens the bike lock, goes into the room, and what's in the room?
Oh, no.
The cages from Barbarian are in the room. And they're full of women who are dressed like the quote-unquote prophet, like in like, very drapey kind of religious-looking garb. And they're all crunched down in these cages, and the room is being kept really cold, and there's water mist coming down on them to make them uncomfortable. And Hugh Grant is in there, and you see him giving them water through the watering can, putting it in like a plate on the ground. And you realize at the very beginning when he came to the door with the watering can, he had just come from feeding the prophets.
That's why it took so long for him to answer the door.
That and because he has to disable the timer and
I like the idea that he came to the door with the watering can. That's just such a great, it's like Chekhov's watering can, you know what I mean? Like,
totally.
You plant a watering can in Act 1, you have to use it in Act 3.
So when I was researching online, I saw on IMDb that there are all the characters. Actually, there are not that many characters in this whole movie. No. And there are pedestrians, the teenagers, the neighbors. And then I caught that there's an actress that played a believer, and there's another actress that played a disciple. And that was so interesting to me, that these people in
really
cages...
was two different people.
Yeah, and besides Prophet, which is who is played by L. Young, and so they all play different roles, and they perhaps are willing to engage in these activities, and they believe in him, they're following him.
One thing I had a question was: are these people who came to the door as preachers that he was able to pretty much break them and turn them into this? Is that where we got?
He
them?
never says, but that was my guess because we already know.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
We already know from these two that he got them because he expressed an interest in the church. So he could.
So he was able to get these people to be like, okay, you're right. That is the one true faith. I'm willing to help you spread that and live in a cage. I'd rather be controlled than anything else.
Yeah, that's pretty much where we're at this point. So he says, now what do you think is the one true religion? Like you've arrived at the end, basically. And Sister Paxson says, I think that you think the one true religion is control, because you've been in sort of one step ahead of this whole thing, and now you have these women locked up, and and he says, he keeps them freezing and hungry, and that way he, they'll do just about anything that he says.
Because they don't have anything.
Yeah.
But they willingly gave it up in order to, I guess, is it believe what he's saying, or they give it up because they would rather be controlled than be free in a chaotic world with no control? Is that the premise of that?
Or that they won't kill themselves. It's very dark. I don't think there's a clear answer here. I wish there's a prequel so we see what happens.
See, my script that I had come up with in high school, where the Jehovah's Witnesses are flatlined and brought back, and they join this person, and his cult of disbelievers gets bigger and bigger. In this one, he literally is in control of them, and he's the one true religion. In a way, he's made himself the god of control.
Yeah, he says that's all religion does, is it's manufactured to control the masses.
Religion is just a system of control.
Yeah, and so by the end, he becomes no better than the religions he's criticizing, because that's all he's doing now. It's really just...
This whole time we think he's trying to enlighten them. Maybe he's just trying to detach them from their religion, and they're easy to control, so he can control them.
Reed's conclusion, according to Wikipedia, the desire to control others is the root of all religions.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after this word from our sponsor.
Hey, movie lovers, do you hate your life? Come on, be honest. Are you at the end of your rope, feeling stuck, burnout, and waiting for luck or fate to change the situation for you? Today's episode is sponsored by Agency, what we use to explore the power of choice in film and in life. Agency is the sense of control that you feel in your life, your capacity to influence your own thoughts and behavior, and have faith in your ability to handle a wide range of tasks and situations. It's the freedom to pursue your passions, the courage to challenge the norm, and the strength to stand up for what you believe in. Seize your agency as you deep dive into the main character of your own life, from heroic journeys to unexpected twists. Discover what it truly means to take action and make decisions that define your story. Have some agency. Download it today on Apple App Store or Google Play for free.
So at that point, they're talking, and somehow he brings up magic underwear. He's like, it says fake as magic underwear, and she stabs him in the neck with a letter opener. It pretty much goes through his neck and out the other side of his neck, and then she's able to run away.
Yeah, so she tries running away, winds up back in the cellar area, and kind of gets her with the old switcheroo. Like he pops up from behind her and cuts her with the box cutter
in the stomach.
Yeah, in the stomach. And so now they're both kind of dying at this point. And she explains to him the prayer experiment.
Yeah, even in his death, laying on the ground with blood coming out of his throat, I don't know, did he ask her to pray for him, or why do you pray?
I mean, no,
I don't know what. Yeah.
I feel like he can barely talk at this point.
He did say,
he says
pray
something like
for
prayer.
us, and then
Pray
she said,
for us.
praying doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the Great Prayer Experiment, which I guess was basically like two groups of sick people, one prayed for and one not prayed for, and the same thing happened. There was no effect. But she says, even if that's true, it's good to think about other people.
It's
even
nice
if
to
it's,
think of
it's
someone
nice to-
other than
yeah,
yourself,
Other than yourself.
even if it is you.
Meaning, even if it's someone like Mr. Reed.
Yeah.
So he's clawing on the floor towards her, and he was like laying on her for a second, and I thought he was like gonna die on her, but he was crawling over to her with the box cutter
Yeah.
to kill her.
Yeah.
And then right when he's about to kill her, he gets hit in the face by a 2x4 with 3 nails, sticking out of it, in the face, by Sister Barnes, who miraculously is alive for a second. The one that was killed before gets up and kills him right when he's about to kill Sister Paxton.
And that same
And then,
piece of
and then
wood,
falls on the floor and dies. Yeah, the piece of wood has 3 nails in it, and I immediately thought of Jesus' nails.
and we have seen this piece of wood earlier because that's the first thing that happened when they went down to the cellar. Sister Barnes climbed up on the chair, on the table, and then she's very curious.
She's trying to get out of a window in the
break,
ceiling,
something open to help them get out. And that piece of wood fell on the floor. So we saw that before.
Chekhov's wood. Chekhov's watering can, Chekhov's wood.
Throughout the movie, Mr. Reed
Chekhov's
had
candle.
gone back to the model of the house to show that he's actually in control of what's happening. He has tiny little models, characters that he put around the model of the house. And at one point, are we there yet? Sister Paxton found that model.
That happens right after the quote unquote miracle of Sister Barnes getting up and killing him.
With one more
At the
burst of life. Yeah.
Exactly, one more burst of life. She's able to kill him and then dies. So the model of the house, when they're first trapped in the basement before the prophet, you see him sitting there talking to them and singing "Creep," but he's also using a knife to whittle figures of them and put them in this model of the house, which when you look at it, you realize it's actually like a big puzzle, the house.
It's a really accurate diorama, yeah.
It's like a diorama, and it reminded me of Clash of the Titans, when the gods would like be watching what the humans were doing on Earth, and at one point Perseus falls down and they stand him back up. So it just gave me that sense of like the gods watching, like Greek gods, which I like.
That was the quick, a little bit of cinematography I wanted to highlight was there's one shot that starts out as like an overhead zoom. Yeah, it follows her as she's like climbing up this ladder, and then it transforms into this miniature shot of the diorama that he's working on, and then very seamlessly it then like cuts back to the regular chase scene.
It's so good because she's like running through the diorama, like she's in it, and then she opens a door in the diorama, and then the camera pulls back and it opens a door in the room where the diorama is. That's really cool. Really cool.
To him, it's just a game too. This whole thing.
And on top of that, like she's smart enough to see the diorama and realize that it's accurate, and then she starts going through it and removing walls and stuff, trying to see if there's anywhere in the diorama where she could escape the house. And she finds like it's not really a window, right? It's like a vent, like the kind
piece.
it's kind of like a vent
like a
that
vent,
would like as if you were doing laundry and that like steam comes out the side of the house. I've seen that on houses in Brooklyn. So she pushes that out and is able to like push herself out the window, even with her stomach wound, and land outside in the snow.
And then it shows that her cell phone's getting signal outside the house.
It says no signal, and then it gets signal. You're right. And then when she's sitting there, she notices that a butterfly has landed on her hand.
How do you interpret the butterfly, both of you?
Well, then it cuts to that. She's looking at it, and then it shows her hand again, and it's actually not there. Or it's gone.
I thought it flew away, but that's interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point. I also thought it flew away, but the way it cut from her looking at it to cutting to her hand and it not being there was interesting.
Yeah, first time I watched it, I thought it flew away. The second time, I thought maybe it's her imagination. It could be she's thinking that Sister Barnes. It could be just a symbol of getting free.
Did Sister Barnes resurrect to save her?
Well, I think
and die again?
I think it's the duality of what she said earlier about the reincarnation through the butterfly, but then also calling back the butterfly that they saw in the house. Like it could have been just that butterfly from in the house, or it could have been, it could be the faith-based explanation. It's up to you
Could
to decide.
be Mr. Reed when he was trying to get her to believe in the Matrix, he just talked about the butterfly dream, where are you dreaming of a butterfly or is the butterfly dreaming of you?
Yeah. That
So yeah,
quote.
it's got a lot of interesting little symbolism and metaphors with it. But the thing that was great is that they established the butterfly, Chekhov's butterfly, in the beginning when it's trapped in the house. So theoretically, that butterfly could have escaped the house out the window that she pushed out.
Yeah.
Or if you're more of a faith-based person, that's actually Sister Barnes.
Exactly.
You know, so it's left up to your interpretation. The movie isn't really telling you how to feel, but it is laying out a lot of skepticism in a way that if your brain is inclined in that direction, you might go from slight doubt to full-on skepticism. And if you go, you could also go from belief to doubt from this movie, which is interesting too.
Can either of you Google that quote? I wrote down butterfly dreams of man.
The butterfly dream, the most famous of Zhuangzi. How would you say that? Zhuangzi.
Zhuangzi.
The most famous of Zhuangzi's stories appears at the end of the second chapter on the equality of things and consists of a dream being briefly recalled. Once Zhuangzao dreamed he was a butterfly flittering and fluttering about, happy with himself and doing as he pleased. Suddenly he woke up and there was a solid and unmistakable Zhuangzao, but he didn't know if he was Zhuangzao who had dreamt he was a butterfly or he was a butterfly dreaming that he was Zhuangzao. Between Zhuangzao and the butterfly, there must be some distinction. This is called the transformation of things. So that's from chapter 2 of this book from around 476 BC. That's a very sophisticated thought for that long ago. That's a very crazy, that's wild stuff right there.
Well, aren't we just iterations of the humans before us?
Basically, yeah, like the Matrix is the butterfly dream.
Being able to create when he's like crafting the little figures, he's playing God, like man, God, creation.
Yeah, he became the thing that he was most repulsed by in a way. I have to give Scott Beck and Brian Woods a lot of credit because they wrote the story too.
They wrote and directed. I have not seen A Quiet Place. I assume both of you have.
I saw A Quiet Place and I saw A Quiet Place Day 1. I never saw A Quiet Place 2.
And I saw the first two, but not day one.
I like Day 1 best, man.
That's what everyone's saying. Yeah, because
It's by Sarnofsky, the guy who directed Pig,
Yeah.
which is like so good.
it is so good.
Basically, is like A Quiet Place Pig. That's what it feels like. A quiet
Pig. Yeah, I'll say I didn't personally care for the first two Quiet Places. But
Third one's good, man. It's really good.
I will watch
it. It's got Alex Wolff in it. It's got Joseph Quinn. It's got Lupita Nyong'o. So we brought Olive Pineapple O on for a reason because of their experience growing up, and maybe it's time for you to talk about that.
All right,
I just want to say I really like this movie. I give it like I don't know. I'll say 4 out of 5 stars. I know I'm being generous, but I think it's worth it. I think it's worth seeing for anyone. I'm interested to know what Mormons think of it, but I think it's really tight, and it's better the second time you see it. I don't know how that's possible, but it is. It's good to know some of the twists because I was a little bit like taken aback when we first go into the basement and the prophet comes out. I'm like, oh, is this turning into a Blumhouse movie? Like, what's happening? Because it was like such a like chamber piece of people talking and kind of like trying to debate with each other, and then it became like a horror movie. But watching it a second time, like that shift is fine. It works.
It sort of leads on that it might go down the supernatural route, but it never does.
Yeah, it feels that when it first happens, you're like, oh wait, are we going somewhere stupid? And it didn't.
Yeah,
it stayed on that line, that liminal space between belief and disbelief is being rode the whole time to the point where he literally writes it on 2 doors.
Yeah,
I feel like the way they're coming together to make this movie almost starts with, okay, let's make a movie that will wake people the fuck up, but let's be subtle about it. And let's make it fun. Let's make a horror film. So, like earlier, I was talking about the symbols. There's a second doorbell. There's jump scare. There's almost even robot. When we thought that maybe Sister Barnes is an NPC. I find it really fun That's how to welcome all types of audience. So it's not so one-sided. I don't think it's preaching to the choir. Do you guys think?
I think that some of its ideas are maybe not entirely new to certain people, but I think that it tries to keep things balanced. I don't think it's really attacking any specific faith.
It's really just about belief and disbelief, you know? More so than about Christianity, Mormonism, or any of those things.
And really, I think that it uses religion as a jumping point into, by the end, talking about how some men go to such tremendous lengths to prove their intellectual dominance over women.
You mean mansplaining?
Yes, Hugh Grant is the king of mansplaining in this.
He's faith-splaining.
I don't remember where I saw this, but I saw someone say that it's a movie about the horror of being trapped in a room with Ricky Gervais.
Oh my god!
That is pretty scary when you think about it.
But no, that was one of my biggest things that I walked away with, is how oddly timed this movie is with current events today. For those of you who are not on the internet, there is like a trend going around on social media where some shitty guys are saying "your body, my choice," like in regards to women, and that is kind of this movie. Is one guy constantly being one step ahead, and at one point near the end, she says, "Why are you doing this?" And he says, "Why are you letting me do this?" It's basically saying like, "Oh no, like you're doing this. Like I'm not doing this." Hang on, I wanted to pull up one Letterboxd review that I got a kick out of. This is from David Shen on Letterboxd, and he writes, "This week I watched a man who rambles about esoteric ideas for hours on end, assert control over women's bodies while convincing them that it was actually their own idea. But enough about the U.S. presidential election, folks."
Good quote.
That's very prescient.
Yes.
So I think this is a very important movie, and when I knew that John and Tom are going to review it, I'm like, oh my God, I have so much to say. But I also, it's not just me. I feel like everybody has their upbringing and they compare what they have learned, what they've been told, to the truth they found as an adult. And sometimes it is completely the opposite of what you were told. I am super triggered, but at the same time, super pumped. And I'm so happy that people get to watch this movie and think about what they have been told.
When we went to see it a second time, Olive took out the pen and was writing on the napkins and a bag of food that we snuck in, and I was like, oh, I feel like Olive wants to come on the podcast. Why are you taking notes right now?
Well, I was doing it for myself, so I can think about it later. I don't want to lose those points. And I remember being very young. I grew up in Hong Kong and in a religious environment in Christianity. But I remember thinking, as young as 4 years old, oh my God, these people, they're lying. I know this is not true. I just can't really articulate what's wrong, but it is probably not okay to make everyone come to the same conclusion that, oh, this is why we're alive. We're going to heaven. We're going to hell. I'm like, this is so weird that we all have to have the same explanation of our existence just because we are from the same family or same background or cultural background. I
mean, basically, a lot of times people's religion is based on location, where you happen to be born, what type of family you were born into, you're not going to get Christianity if you're born in the heart of Africa, per se, So you were born into it, and that, you questioned it.
Yeah, can you hear can you hear that, I have, real fear in my voice, even talking about it. And I remember at 20, I thought, okay, why am I doing this thing? Why am I going to church every day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday? And then I started living by myself, and I thought, let's try to do something else on Sunday and see what happens. And I purposely walk outside the circle and look back in. And I meet so many good people outside of this circle. They are non-believer. They are, people from, they're atheists. They're people with other religions. Are they all going to hell? I don't think so. So you start to wonder why you believe in what you believe in. And when you look back at the circle, you see how small the circle is. It's just a dot. And then it makes you excited.
You were in Plato's cave. You were in Plato's cave. You walked out of the cave, and the closer to the entrance, the more things you saw.
But it's also not a right or wrong thing. I believe that people find what's good for them, what they need in a moment. Gotta be intellectually curious and find your own truth.
Yeah, I mean, we're living in a time right now where people are becoming less and less religious. And I think a big explanation for that is, we've never been more connected to one another than we have before. We have the internet, we have more ways to meet people, and I think religions tend to thrive in homogenous environments. And so now with different beliefs and backgrounds coming together so much more easily, then I think
we have access to YouTube, we have access to Google,
yeah.
We have access to everyone.
So I think that's dissolving for some people. Even
basically what Hugh Grant said in the movie, the more you know, the less you know.
Exactly.
Why do you think at a certain point he said, this house is complicated, my wife built it? I've been thinking about that. I don't know why he said that.
It's a great line. I think he said that because he was rubbing it in he was like basically lying to their face while they know that he's lying to them, to show them how easy it is to just make a story up. Like, that's what I got from it. Him saying my wife built it is just him
because
basically lying right to them just to kind of rub it in that they just believe whatever they're told.
Because then when you get to the point with the two doors, he says, based on everything I've told you thus far, do you genuinely believe my wife is behind one of these doors? Or
That's right.
Yeah. Or do you think I'm lying to you? Yeah, I wanted to...
So him saying my wife built it is a great, I'm going to lie right to your face and show you what it feels like for you to just have to believe something that's not true because you were raised with it,
Yeah. I just wanted to quickly also shout out the production designer, Philip Messina, on this. He's worked with Steven Soderbergh a whole bunch. He also did the Hunger Games movies, but most notably in the horror world, he did Mother by Darren Aronofsky, a movie that also takes place entirely in a house. So he knows how to make a creepy house. Yeah.
He knows how to make a chamber piece where people are in one place and make that whole thing really interesting the whole time.
This experience of watching Heretic, it's like the powers going back and forth. There's a lot of, this is a horror film. Oh no, this is making me think now. Oh, I'm not so scared. It seems fine. Maybe he just wants them to not be controlled. Is he a good guy? Like, there's just lots of back and forth changes with power. I find it very fun.
Well, it's complicated because, just because you may agree with everything he's saying doesn't mean he's not an asshole.
Yeah.
So it's like you can like a person who happens to be religious because they're a nice person and good and everything, and you can dislike someone who happens to be a skeptic, even though you might be on that page with them. People are still people outside of what they believe or don't believe,
For a good chunk of this movie, I think it's easy to envision someone saying, yeah, I agree with everything he's saying, but then once it turns into what it becomes, being like, oh, okay, well, I can't be on his side anymore. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, the faith-splaining serial kidnapper. Yeah, that's not someone you can be on the side of if you agree with him. I mean, I'm sure Donald Trump is also secretly an atheist, regardless of how many Bibles he tries to sell.
It's his favorite book.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was gonna say when we said before people are becoming less religious, what I think is happening is we have more non-religious people, but the people who are religious are becoming doubly as religious. The people who are left are really extreme and doubling down, and they hate gays, and they try to use the Bible to justify horrific ideas and scenarios. Like Mary and Joseph go to another town and give birth, so he's like their kid is like a dreamer. Their kid is an immigrant who give birth in another town, and but they somehow use the Bible to justify their hate of immigrants and stuff. None of it makes sense. I may or may not cut all this out, but I'm just saying that there is an there is something
important.
There's something interesting about the kind of doubling down of the extremities of religion while people are also becoming non-religious at a very strong rate.
But at the same time, I think there's I think I saw somewhere that a lot of younger people, even if they're losing interest in religious institutions, that they are increasingly spiritual and looking for other spiritual outlets. So maybe that's why some people astrology or something else, that's taking the place for some people perhaps.
Or goop.
Or goop. Yeah.
Well, I think if you
or something, YouTube influencers, and other things.
YouTube, maybe in the future, YouTube is a religion. But you can find community. You can find other people to interact with in the arts, in music. I feel like music is a pretty good religion if you have to pick something. Or movies.
It's a universal language, music, like rhythm, melody, and tempo. It can speak to everyone. You would have to be, I don't know, that would be a very interesting human who just hates music, who doesn't like being forced to move, like Footloose or something. How many stars would you give this movie, Tom?
Out of 5?
Or whatever your rating system is. Is it 10?
Out of 10, maybe like a 7.5 or something.
That's good.
I think it's, as you said, I think it's really well thought out and deliberate. And I do want to see it again because I feel like my opinion could change on a rewatch. There's a part of me that wishes the ending maybe had like a little bit more of a punch to it, or
like a wow moment.
Yeah, like I wish there was maybe a bit more of a wow moment.
I mean, in a year that has The Substance, every movie is going to pale in comparison in regards to wow moments. You know what I mean? Like, I agree with you though. Yeah, it doesn't. It just kind of like it ends the way like another type of movie would end.
Yeah,
it ends like a thriller. It ends like your typical thriller. Yeah, I get that.
And it is a thriller. But yeah, like it's just so dialogue heavy. And I don't have a problem with that. I just wish it maybe had like one more like great set piece at the end to kind of, yeah.
Well, I'd say it's probably like hamstrung by the fact that I think it doesn't want to jump the shark and become like a movie with a big wild swing.
It doesn't.
Because the whole time it's been skeptical.
Yeah.
And it doesn't want you to be skeptical of the movie. So it kind of stays within the boundary of the skepticism of the movie. Sister Barnes gets up and is like levitating. Like that would be like a different movie,
That's true. Yeah. I don't know. And my opinion could change on a rewatch. That was just something I walked away with. But yeah, what were you going to say?
I would want to talk to you after your second watch. To me, a good movie needs to take me out of the movie theater. Like I would have to not remember I'm watching a movie during, and that I would have to want to watch it again. I think I can watch it many times. Lately, there are so many good movies. I loved Nora. I loved The Substance. But out of everything lately, I would have to give it a 5.
Wow, that's great.
I think if you have to watch one movie this year, watch this. Maybe The Substance has the same effect on someone else. Wake them up.
We convinced Olive's friend Sadie to watch The Substance. And she just watched it last night, and I'm sure she's going to be recovering.
Sadie said, "I thought I was ready for this."
It might be good to wrap up this review of Heretic, but I hope everyone out there enjoyed this deep dive into the movie. I know we went on a few tangents, but I think they all had to do with the movie itself. I stand by my 4 out of 5. I mean, I immediately saw it again. Like I saw it. Olive was late, and we got the next showing and saw it again the same day. I saw it twice, and then I went back another day and saw it another time right before we recorded this. So that should tell you how much I liked it. I saw it 2.5 times in like 3 days.
One more thing.
So, go ahead. When
the credit rolls, it goes into a song that Sophie Thatcher is singing.
Oh yeah, I did see that in the credits.
Yeah, she sings "Knocking on Heaven's Door." It's a really good version of it. And one thing I'll say about it is when it first started, I thought it was "Fade Into You" by Mazzy Star, and then she started singing, and I was like, "Funny, that's an iteration. I know what they're doing here. I know what's going on here. This is like nailing home that point that things all came from other things."
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right. That's good.
So this basically concludes our review and deep dive analysis of Heretic. Coming up next on the podcast, I think we're going to do Nosferatu in December, and then in January, maybe you had mentioned, Tom, that you want to do Presents, right?
I think we're a little unsure about that because that could go either way. I do really want to see that movie and maybe talk about it, but if we don't do that, we'll do
we were going to do like a wrap-up.
A recap of 2024, like our favorite movies from this year.
So many horror movies. Cuckoo, Oddity, The Substance, Nosferatu, Heretic, Immaculate, The First Omen, some other ones too. I have a list here actually, and it's like 10 or 15 movies, like all horror movies, all really good.
There was a lot.
We could throw some stinkers in there if we want. Like I know you probably saw Imaginary. That's probably terrible.
Yeah, that was. I also I just want to be on the record about something. I was not able to join in on the mini review that was posted. Well, because I haven't seen.
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, Ed Douglas took me to see Gladiator 2 at the largest IMAX screen in the country, and I felt like I had to talk about it because I was surrounded by press. And it was crazy.
Yeah, no, and you guys did a very nice job. But as the front line of the Megalopolis Defense Squad, I have to say it caused me pain that I could not interject and talk about that movie while
I'm
listening.
so sorry, man. I know I should have had you on there.
No, it's all good.
You can always insert another chapter.
No, it's all good. Because I got to see Gladiator first, but
maybe when we do Nosferatu, we'll start with a brief recap of Megalopolis and Gladiator 2. How about that?
Maybe, yeah. I just wanted to put my feelings out there. So,
Wait, did you liked it?
So
I loved it. Yeah.
So it's really funny that you say that because I got a message from your brother Matt, who was like, "Oh, by the way, me and Joey saw Megalopolis and we loved it."
Oh,
Oh
did
my
you see
God.
it?
Yeah.
I didn't hear from him.
I'm looking at the text right
John
now.
and I walked out.
I know you did.
Wow. Okay, you guys have to do a special episode. For real.
He wrote to
For
me,
real.
by the way, I loved Megalopolis, and I wrote, Jesus fucking Christ. And he wrote, we'll have to discuss in person sometime. Joey and I both loved it. So yes, I think maybe
Yes.
Megalopolis was made to be liked by everyone in the Milligan
There are
family.
dozens
I'm
of
not
us.
really sure. Dozens of people like that
Well, I
movie.
love
Dozens.
Aubrey. I still couldn't stand it.
Wish I knew you way back when. I wish I knew now what I knew then. I'm a laborer, a delicious rumor.
Hey, thanks again for tuning in to the Cantaloupe Cats Movie Podcast as we dissected Heretic and went off on wild tangents on other movie-related stuff. Hope to have you back again in December when we review Nosferatu by Robert Eggers. See you soon.